I have said for months now that if Donald Trump was running a more disciplined campaign, or I don't know, maybe if he was just more disciplined, he'd be way ahead in the polls. I don't think that it would be close. And yet you still see this continued focus on sideshows by him, with two big things that happened in the past day or so. One happened today, a frivolous lawsuit announced against the DOJ, and the other is his near obsession with crowd size. We'll get to that in a moment because that keeps coming up by him. But I want to start with this lawsuit in which Donald Trump is seeking more than $100 million in damages on an issue I would think he would not want front and center in his effort to woo independence. It stems from the raid in the summer of 2022 of former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate after he refused to hand over classified documents demanded by subpoena and signed off on by a federal judge. The former president filing a memo earlier today announcing the intention to file a lawsuit against the DOJ and the FBI for carrying out the raid, and saying Attorney General Merrick Garland and FBI Director Christopher Wray brought a, quote, malicious political prosecution. Here's the former president's attorney, Daniel Epstein, on Fox earlier today.
We have a word for that gets thrown around a lot, but in this case is very accurate and precise: election interference. And that's what President Trump believes the entire special counsel investigation was about: interfering with his ability to get elected.
He may believe that, but that doesn't mean any court is going to believe that he has any sort of legal argument. And by the way, not even Judge Aileen Cannon, the Trump-friendly federal judge who threw out this case last month. Because back in June, Judge Cannon said that she could not find that the affidavit that supported the warrant contained any false statements. They were trying to get this thrown out based on that. And at the time, she said no. And yet Trump's attorney is now trying to argue that Judge Cannon's ruling throwing out the case on the grounds that the special counsel was not appointed properly somehow proves the whole case was politically motivated, even though that explicitly was not her reason. The attorney writing in the memo today, quote, Garland and Wray should have never approved a raid and subsequent indictment of President Trump because the well-established protocol with former U.S. presidents is to use non-enforcement means to obtain records of the United States. Garland and Wray should have ensured their agents sought consent from President Trump, notified his lawyers, and sought cooperation. Except that's exactly what the DOJ did. They bent over backwards to try to avoid the raid. For months, they tried and tried to get Trump and his team to cooperate. I think sometimes we forget the timeline here, right? January 2021, he leaves office, he takes the documents with him, which under the Presidential Records Act should have been turned over to the National Archives, or NARA. About 3 months later, NARA realizes classified documents are missing. They ask the Trump team to return them. NARA continues to try to get the Trump team to provide the documents voluntarily. Fast forward to December 2021, NARA in an affidavit reveals it, quote, continued to make requests for the documents over all those many months. And finally, a Trump representative tells NARA it found 12 boxes of records that should have been turned over. Okay. A month later, NARA gets 15 boxes of records from the Trump team. They'd later reveal 14 of those boxes contained classified records. A month later, NARA tells the FBI, found highly classified, sensitive documents there, and noted that they were, quote, intermixed with all sorts of other documents, and they asked the FBI to open an investigation. Mid-April, NARA informs Trump's team, plans to turn over the documents to the FBI. Trump team asks for an extension. They get it. Try to stonewall even further. When the 17-day extension lapses, DOJ responds by sending a letter to Trump's lawyers seeking immediate access. The clock finally runs out 2 weeks later. NARA informs the Trump team it plans to immediately turn over the documents. And then in early June, 3 FBI agents visit Mar-a-Lago where, lo and behold, more documents were found. They're given an envelope full of additional documents, 38 of which were classified. And this is the most important point. The Trump team signs an affidavit stating that after a diligent search, they can promise there are no more classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. The FBI agents are allowed to visit the storage room where the documents are, but not allowed to look at anything in there. No, after all, there should not have been any reason to do a search since the Trump team gave them a certified letter that a diligent search had already been completed. If everything had been handed over at that point, there would not have been criminal charges. There would have been no raid. Okay? Except then, the DOJ learns that the sworn statement was not true. And so 2 months later, they file for the warrant, citing probable cause that there were additional documents there. The warrant's executed on August 8th, and the FBI finds more than 100 additional documents. And in a filing a few weeks later, they alleged that the repeated delays were not an accident. They said they were, quote, likely concealed and removed, referring to the documents. So this idea that the DOJ and the FBI didn't seek cooperation from the Trump team is nonsense. They sought it again and again and again. And that doesn't count what were countless other informal requests, particularly in that 8-month period between May 2021 and December 2021. 7. So even if you think these charges shouldn't have been brought, even if you think the FBI shouldn't have ever raided former president's home, even if you think Judge Cannon was right to toss the case last month, that doesn't mean this lawsuit has an ounce of merit. It's got no chance to succeed. It is a political stunt. But most importantly, it's a bad political stunt. Sure, the base and maybe some folks over at Fox may get riled up about it. But it's not going to help with a single swing voter who want to hear about immigration, the economy, what's happening in the world. In fact, it would seem bringing this up again can only hurt him politically. At best, his team didn't tell the truth to federal officials and they got caught. At worst, they lied and were trying to cover it up. But in no rational world does this help with the voters that he needs to persuade. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.